Howdy folks, and welcome back to World of Warships with Rear Admiral Jingles, and today we are featuring the return of the most pointy-haired of all Jedis. It is, well, pointy-haired Jedi. He's in the Z-46, the German Tier 9 destroyer, which is very brave of him. It's not that the German destroyers have been nerfed at all. They were pretty good when they were first introduced. And nothing about them has been changed, that I'm aware of. But it's just that the game has kind of moved on a bit since German destroyers were introduced. And German destroyers haven't moved on a bit. The French destroyers outgun and outrun them. British destroyers, like the Daring and the Jutland, are just all-round better. In general, German destroyers tend to have pretty bad AA, so they're really enjoying the aircraft carrier rework, more so than most other destroyers. The German destroyers thing used to be, well, they had two things. Hydroacoustic search, which they still have, although now the British destroyers get that as well. Although it's a different kind of hydro. I mean, you could argue the case that the British hydro is better, but I wouldn't go that far. It's just different. British destroyer hydro is extremely long duration, but short-ranged. It's more of a self-defense hydroacoustic search. German destroyer hydro, by contrast, is longer range. It doesn't last as long, but it extends further. The Z-46, for example, its hydro will detect enemy ships out to a range of 5 kilometres. But even then, there's nothing really special about this anymore. The Italian cruiser Gorizia has a 6-kilometre hydro. The destroyers Loyang and Silawangi have a 5.5-kilometre hydro. Oh well, never mind. The German destroyers do have one other ace up their sleeve. Nobody can beat the reload speed of their torpedoes. Oh yeah, right. Well, I suppose if you're in a Japanese torpedo destroyer, the German destroyers are still quite scary. But then again, if you're in a Japanese torpedo destroyer, every other destroyer is still quite scary. It's not that the German destroyers are bad. Well, not in general. It's just that anything they do, somebody else can almost always do it better. Jedi's pushing the A-cap here, and I'm wondering why that Baltimore over there... Oh, there it is. Not the Baltimore, sorry, the Buffalo. I mean, it's fairly obvious that there's been a destroyer in this cap for some time, and the Buffalo waited until it was too late before he radared him, so that was nice. That's something that you do see, unfortunately, quite a lot. Cruisers being selfish with their radar. Regardless of how many of their teammates might be able to shoot at something, they don't use it until they can shoot at something, even if it's one salvo and it's too little and it's too late. And in defence of German destroyer torpedoes, while they're not as fast and they don't reload as quickly as those of the Swedes, they do at least hit harder. But, well, that's not saying a lot. Swedish torpedoes are notorious for how little damage they do. Jedi, noting that the Bismarck over there has just used his damage control to fix a single flood, wastes no time whatsoever in opening up with his guns, and succeeds in setting a fire. Which was very lucky because the base fire chance of these guns is only 7%. But that's a permanent fire on the Bismarck. The guns on the Z-46 are quite impressive. They've got a fast reload, and the armour-piercing shells are very, very good. It's just a shame that the high-explosive shells are so underwhelming. Generally speaking, if you've got the chance to hit somebody with armour-piercing and do damage, you use the armour-piercing. The high-explosive tends, in German destroyers at least, to get used as a last resort. At the moment, both teams have lost one ship. The Bismarck has been sunk, and Jedi's team have lost the Russian Tier 8 cruiser, the Tallinn. However, the points are in Jedi's team's favour. Based on the fact that Jedi has managed to cap Alpha, they've got a Benson attempting to cap Charlie, although that's now being contested, but they also have a German Tier 9 cruiser, the Rune, busy contesting the enemy team's possession of Capture Point Bravo. The problem is that in the position that he's in, there in the middle of the map, the Rune is extremely vulnerable to fire from the battleships down to the south. And the Benson, well, I don't know if you can see on the map the tiny little island that he's hiding behind, but let's just say it's not providing him with a great deal of cover. Meanwhile, Jedi and this, I believe it's pronounced Skun, the Swedish Tier 7. You know, I'm just going to call it the hurdy-gurdy boat. The Swedish chef boat. They're attempting to work their way around and head down to the south to assist the rest of their team, but then a couple of things happen. First, the Benson definitely outstayed his welcome around the corner of that tiny little island in Cap Point Charlie, and stuck around long enough to get blown away by the secondary gun batteries of a German battleship. And somebody seems to be flipping capture point A, which is quite rude considering the effort that Jedi just went to take it. In fact, the enemy team are taking possession of all 3 of the caps. So this is not good. Jedi was chasing down the Buffalo, but it's been a while, and, well, the Buffalo's radar is actually about to come off cooldown. So he decides, and yep, there it is, but he's right at the extreme limit of the radar range. Although, despite that, watch what happens here. He was lit up on radar for about half a second. And, yep, there it is. So I just want you to remember what happens every time Jedi gets detected, okay? He instantly gets shot at. Meanwhile, keeping a healthy distance from the Buffalo, Jedi's closing in on whoever it is about to flip capture point Alpha. Can he get there in time? I don't think he can. Nope. But there it is. Oh, it's the Z-23. Well, that's very unfortunate, isn't it? Now, you might think, oh look, everybody's shooting at him. And it's true that Jedi is, and the hurdy-gurdy boat is, but those are actually shots from a German battleship's secondaries. And this is at least something that German destroyers are very good at doing. Chasing down people who think they're safe inside their smoke screens. With that 5-kilometer hydro, if you're being charged down by a German destroyer that's close enough to detect you with the hydro, and you're stationary, you are never getting away. You have to stand and fight. So Jedi's just claimed his first kill without taking any damage whatsoever, because of course the Z-23's guns were all facing in the wrong direction. And that's when he spots victim number 2. Enemy destroyer spotted in open water. Jedi taking advantage of the Z-23 smokescreen, but he's probably not going to be able to slow down in time. So he pops his own. His hydro is still running, although enemy torpedoes are going to be the least of his problems because there's a Chapayev just been spotted within 12 kilometers. And sure enough, there's the radar. Okay, the Ostergotland's gotten away. You've already flipped the cap, Jedi. There is absolutely no reason to stick around stationary inside a smokescreen while you're being radared by a Chapayev who was only visible because he was shooting. Yes, the Chapayev, in common with other high-tier Russian cruisers, can stealth radar destroyers without being detected. But, well, you know, that seems perfectly fair and reasonable. I mean, aircraft carrier players were crying that their aircraft were getting fired upon by the anti-aircraft guns of ships that they couldn't actually see yet, so naturally Wargaming took steps to resolve that. And I have to admit, and I'm not being sarcastic here, that does actually seem quite fair and reasonable. Meanwhile, destroyers are being radared by Russian cruisers like the Chapayev and the Dmitry Donskoy that can't actually be seen because they're outside of surface detection range. Wargaming's response? Yeah, that's right, more Russian stealth radar cruisers. I bet you nobody saw that coming. Well, that's the point, nobody does see them coming, that's the problem. Well, anyway, Jedi rushing over to assist the Sinop over here in flipping the central cap, and the Sinop is definitely going to need the help because he's getting farmed and is never going to flip that cap alone. Meanwhile, Jedi's torpedoes, and they're all looking pretty good, closing in on the enemy Sinop. 3 hits, not enough to sink him, but it did cause a flood and it did knock out his engines, so that Sinop has definitely just used his damage control. Unfortunately, while I'm sure Jedi is fighting the temptation to repeat his earlier party trick and set him on fire with some high explosive shells, there is no way he's going to reveal his position while he's sitting in the cap circle here. With the Chapayev, seriously, why is nobody shooting the Chapayev? Look, you could fire in his general direction and kill him. What are you guys doing? Shoot the Chapayev. But no, they're busy farming damage on a 22,000 health Sinop. Oh. Well, judging by the speed of those torpedoes, and they are pretty damn quick, and that was very close. I think we can safely assume that there's a hurdy-gurdy boat out there somewhere. I mean, you know, obviously there is. The only 2 surviving enemy destroyers are both Swedish, but, well, he's out that way somewhere. Not that Jedi can do anything about it. He's busy capping, he doesn't want to give his position away, and, well, the team really need this cap. This is Jedi's 3rd cap of the game. There he is, the Ostergotland. The Sinop's probably not going to last too much longer. He doesn't dare shoot at him until he's finished capping, because the team are down to the last 5 ships, and they're probably about to lose the Sinop. Observe, absolutely nobody shooting at the low health enemy destroyer, except for Jedi, who opens up, and watch what happens the second he's detected. Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? There's still nobody but him shooting at the Ostergotland. I didn't realise the team was in such a strong position that they could afford to miss the opportunity to kill a low health enemy ship like that, but apparently they are. But I suppose it stands to reason. I mean, when you're outnumbered 5 to 8, why on earth would you possibly want to make it 5 to 7? Anyway, Jedi's had quite enough of that, particularly since there's another stealth radar cruiser out there, who luckily we can actually see, the Talon, so Jedi does not want to be within 12 kilometres of that. The other enemy destroyer, however, is looking like a much more juicy victim. And Jedi wants to be heading in this direction anyway, because that's where the last remaining cap is. Meanwhile, his torpedoes, well, they haven't hit the Ostergotland, but it looks like he's going to get at least 2 on the Talon. Yep, not enough to sink him, of course. And they have just lost the Sinop. So they're still outnumbered nearly 2 to 1. And, oh shit, radar? No, hydro. That means somebody's real close. Oh, shit on a stick, it's the Buffalo. Now, despite the fact that the Buffalo has just provided early warning, the Scania over there is still sailing on the perfect course for Jedi to intercept him with his guns all pointing in the wrong direction. And naturally, once again, the second Jedi spotted, he's immediately targeted by 5 of the 6 surviving enemy ships, although it's bad news for the Buffalo that Jedi's torpedoes are ready to go, because that's very quickly going to be 5 surviving enemy ships. Jedi, of course, still spotted, still being targeted by absolutely everybody. Now would be a great time to use that smokescreen generator and hope that the Talon isn't within 12 kilometres. Jedi is now in what the late great Bill Paxton might refer to as some real pretty shit. The fire's about, in fact the fire has just expired within seconds of finishing him off, and he's about to get his engine back up. But the Sinop is closing in and his torpedoes have missed. It would be real nice if just for once the team could start shooting at the biggest threat, and they are, thank God. Because if that Sinop gets to within 2 kilometres, Jedi's going to be auto-spotted, and I don't think his torpedoes are going to reload in time. But despite the team's assistance, that Sinop is getting way too close for comfort. So Jedi thinks about taking matters into his own hands and pumping some high explosive into the superstructure, which would almost certainly have gotten him spotted and killed by the Yamagi over there, but fortunately the team finished the Sinop off a fraction of a second before he fired. So he's gotten away with it, he's unspotted. He's going to have to keep some distance between himself and the Sinop spotter plane, of course, but that shouldn't be too difficult. Oh shit. Me and my big mouth. And for once in this game, no, there it is. Yeah. I thought it was too good to be true. I thought for the first time in this game Jedi had been spotted and nobody took the trouble of shooting at him. But no, the pattern continues. He gets spotted for a fraction of a second by the spotter plane. The Talon instantly radars and takes a pot shot at him. Luckily, the Talon missed. Now you might be sitting there thinking, while he was in that smoke screen with the Sinop closing in, why didn't he run through the gap between those 2 islands over there? And I have to admit, I was thinking that myself. Luckily, Jedi's a better player than most of us, myself included. And I suspect, as you can tell by the speed of those underwater rockets, that the Ostergotland is down there somewhere, as indeed is the Talon. So it would have largely been a case of out of the frying pan and into the fire. If he'd run away from the Sinop through that gap, he would have run right into the arms of not just the Ostergotland, but also the Talon. And destroyers that run towards radar cruisers tend to last, well, not long at all. Certainly not as long as destroyers that keep their distance from radar cruisers. Now he's almost certainly not going to catch the Talon with any of those torpedoes unless he comes through this gap, and it doesn't look like he is. So that's a bit of a shame. What's an even bigger shame is the fact that even though he's flipped it twice, the enemy team have taken control of capture point Alpha. So that's not good news. But what is good news is that the friendly Yamagi took the opportunity to slap some armour piercing into the big fat broadside of the Talon as he sailed through the gap in between those 2 islands. The great news is that those torpedoes, which were a bit of a Hail Mary, just prove that whatever the Ostergotland can do, the Z-46 can do better. He's managed to sink the last remaining enemy destroyer, and for the first time in this entire game, with only 2 enemy ships surviving, and the Yamagi about to take a torpedo, sadly no flooding, Jedi's team actually outnumber the enemy. It's hard to see how that Amagi's going to survive. I mean, he has my sympathies. This is not a pleasant situation in which to be. Oh, there's the A gear. Ah, he's flipping Bravo. Jedi sends some torpedoes in his direction, although not with any great anticipation of them actually hitting anything unless that guy slows down in order to take shots at something. He's probably not going to eat any of those torpedoes. The Amagi is... there's just nothing he can do here. If he tries to turn and run north and maybe get into cover behind those islands, he's going to be giving broadside to the friendly Amagi, and he won't last long if that's the case. He's got a rune shooting at him, and runes are very good at starting fires, and now of course Jedi's smoked up. Is that yeah, that's going to be a torpedo hit, and that is a flood. And of course Jedi is doing his level best to set additional fires as well, so it's just a question of time for the cat. And there's the fire. So yeah, the combination of the fire and the flood is going to kill him. It's just a question of who's going to get the kill. Is it going to be Jedi? Because that would be Kraken Unleashed. Come on, Jedi. I think he earned it. There it is. There's the Kraken Unleashed. That just leaves the last surviving enemy ship, the German premium cruiser, the A-Gear. And we know exactly where he is, because somebody's flipping the central cap. Actually, now I come to think of it, that's another pattern that's been developing in this battle as well. Every single time, without fail, that Jedi has flipped a cap, somebody on the enemy team has flipped it back, and he's had to go and kill somebody and then take the cap back from them again. I mean, I'm sure he's not complaining, as long as he wins this battle. That's so far 2 caps and 1 assist, which is extremely useful experience and credits for anybody, not just a destroyer. Well, he's going to have the opportunity to do it again. The enemy team hold 2 of the caps, and while I don't expect this game to be decided on points, because at this stage the enemy team are so far behind, and there's so little time left, that even if they were to take the 3rd cap and hold all 3, this battle would be over before the points made a difference. You know, I can't remember if it's a tier 8, no, sorry, a tier 9 German cruiser. Does it get radar? I don't think it does. None of the German cruisers get radar. Don't know why. They do get a 6-kilometer hydro, though, which I think the hurdy-gurdy boat up there has forgotten all about. We shall see. He seems to have gotten away with it so far, but he's definitely within 6 kilometers. 1 torpedo hit. Oh, no, 2. Well, if the A-Gear didn't know he was there before, he definitely does now, so he'll be firing up his hydro. His turrets will be swinging around. Oh, I don't know, maybe he did get away with it. Oh, no, there it is. Yeah, somebody forgot about that 6-kilometer range hydro. Jedi definitely hasn't forgotten about that 6-kilometer range hydro, which coincidentally is also the same range as the torpedoes typically carried by German cruisers, and the A-Gear is no exception. Hang on a second, has he grounded? He has. It looks like he nosed into the bay up there, presumably to attempt to avoid some of the hurdy-gurdy boat's torpedoes. Unfortunately, while he definitely has hydro running and is going to see these torpedoes coming, the fact that he's reversing out of that bay means he's moving far too slowly to actually be able to do anything about it. So he will, by now, be seeing these torpedoes coming, and all he can do is attempt to only get hit by 2 of them, which he managed to at least do, and is the only reason why he's not already dead. But there's the high caliber award to go with the Confederate, Kraken Unleashed and Devastating Strike. And Jedi, for the 3rd time in this battle, is now flipping Alpha. I guess now it's just a question of how brave Jedi's feeling, because, well, we know for a fact that the A-Gear has just used his damage control because the earlier torpedo strike caused a flood and Jedi isn't ticking over any more damage, so somebody used their damage control. There is less than a minute of this battle remaining, and there's no guarantee those torpedoes are going to get there in time. Luckily, the A-Gear's gun turrets are all pointing in the wrong direction, and Jedi's very first salvo sets the fire that he needed. Then again, I mean, the A-Gear is a new ship, and I don't know what the range of its secondary gun batteries are, so it might be a good idea, Jedi, and he is doing exactly that, to use the smokescreen. But that is going to be a permanent fire, and probably would have been his 6th kill if the rune hadn't come through the gap in the islands over there at the last second and took advantage of the A-Gear's embarrassment to end the match. So it's nice for a change to see a team snatching victory from the jaws of defeat instead of the other way around, which is a lot more common, at least on this YouTube channel. So congratulations, Jedi, on a very nearly 3,000 base experience battle there in a ship that's generally considered to be not particularly good. It's almost as if it's the person playing it, not the ship itself, although I have to admit, the ship kind of helps. And if you want to see more shenanigans like this, then I'll put a link down below in the video description to Pointyhead Jedi's Twitch channel. I'm sure he'd appreciate the follows, and you never know, it might actually encourage him to stream more than once a month. You know, I'm just dropping hints here, Jedi. You never know where they're going to take root. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed that one. Congratulations to Jedi, and as always, take care, stay safe, and I'll catch you next time.